Do you have some 8.5 by 11 pattern paper in your stash that you would like to use up? Hi, I'm Jess from JessCrafts.com, and I'm here to help you make the most of your crafty supplies and time. So let's get making. Today I have 8.5 by 11 paper busting template for A2 cards number 1. I have shown this template before. I've made a video with this template before. However, I recently added to my 8.5 by 11 templates so that I have a set of 10. The first 3, including this one, are available for free at jesscrafts.com, so you can follow the link in the video description and download those first 3 templates. If you like them, you think you're going to use them, and you like more, there are an additional 7 in the Etsy pack. So I'm going to start with the Recollections Halloween paper pad. I picked this up in 2025, the year that I'm recording, and I also have an idea for some other things that I want to use to embellish, but let's focus on the paper and the template now. This template is going to ask you to use non-directional patterned paper because we're going to take this 1 inch by 2 3/4 inch piece here, and we're going to turn it on its side to make the focal point. So it's not to say that you couldn't adjust the sketch, like if you left it standing up and you figured a way to use that, you could certainly make it work. But the way that I've drawn the sketch compared to the way that I've drawn the template is asking for non-directional patterned paper. And what I mean by that is paper that doesn't have a clear top and bottom like these pumpkins. There's quite a few directional pattern papers in this particular paper pack, but there are a few that could work for non-directional patterns as well. I think I'm going to use the spider webs that are in here today, just because there's actually there is the orange spider webs, there's black spider webs, and there is, I want to say gray, so here's the black, which I think is going to be my intention today, and I'm going to add some color somewhere else. And yeah, I think there were some gray ones at the beginning, but no, I must have made a mistake. Okay, so let us start by cutting this to 8.5 by 11. It has a little hole there at the top that we need to take care of. And the cuts on this are rather simple. They're only 3 pieces of paper for each of the elements of the sketch. So let us start by cutting this is the 8.5 inch side. We're going to cut it to 3 3/4. So those measurements are there on the template. And with a paper trimmer, this is actually like a thinner patterned paper, so if you could potentially cut multiple pieces if you really wanted to use a lot of pattern paper at one time. When using tools like your paper trimmer, please follow all manufacturer's safety instructions. Now I know this is a little tricky to see because I'm using pretty dark paper and my paper trimmer is dark, but I'll try to be really clear in the measurements. So here we have this 11 inch piece, and we are going to cut it to 2 3/4. So I am actually going to measure 2 3/4 inch from the 11, so subtract 1 inch, 2 inches, then 3/4 of an inch. And the other option, of course, would just be to bring it to the 2 3/4 inch mark. So like whatever is easier for you and your patterned paper, or the way your brain does this kind of math. Okay, so I have those pieces, and you also can take some like trays or something and sort the pieces. So put, since each of these goes to a different card, placing them in a different tray can be a helpful organization method, or just make piles on your desk, things like that. Okay, then the next thing that we need to do is we're gonna cut off these 1/2 inch strips. I wanna make sure that I do that first so that I'm not trying to take a 1 inch piece of paper and cut it in half into a 1/2 inch. That's gonna be more challenging on my paper trimmer. So I'm gonna take my 11 inch piece and I'm gonna measure it to 10.5 to get my 1/2 inch off the bottom. And then I do that again by bringing it to 10 inches. I'll do that with both of these pieces. And now this other piece here is just 5 inches. So I'll cut that 10 inch piece in half to 5 inches. And again, the 11 inch side to 10.5 to 10 to 5. Okay, next up we're going to need to cut some mats, particularly in this case where all my paper is the same. Sometimes you don't need to cut mats if you don't want to, but I think that it particularly makes sense in this instance where we really want to provide some high contrast and distinguish our pieces. So I have pulled some orange cardstock. I do like to start with scraps if I can, but I'm thinking these larger, the mats that I need for these large 3 1/4 by 5 inch pieces are definitely going to need to be cut from a big piece because I don't have really large scraps. So I'm going to start by cutting them to 5 1/4. Now, I can get that pretty efficiently out of the 11-inch side. So what I think I'm going to do, my mats are a 1/4 inch bigger. So my pattern paper is 3 1/4 inches and by 5. So I need a mat that is 4 inches by 5 1/4. So I've cut my 4 inch and then I'm going to cut my 2 5 1/4 inch pieces. And this little piece that's left, I'll probably turn this into fake foam tape rather than trying to use it as a mat because I think it's only 1/2 inch big and that's rarely going to be a size I would need for a mat. So again, cutting this to 4 inches. Actually, this is 3/4 of an inch and I do need a 3/4 of an inch mat. So we're gonna use that in a moment. And 5 1/4, 5 1/4. So I do need some mats that are 4 inches by 3 1/4, or sorry, 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to, I think I might have just said those measurements wrong. I need mats that are 4 inches by 3 1/4 inches. So I'm gonna cut it to 8 and then to 4, and that's gonna give me 2 of those mats that I need for these really thin pieces, unless I've done my math wrong. Nope, we're good. Okay, so I think I can get the rest of the mats that I need out of my scraps of paper. So we're gonna start by trying to get 3/4 of an inch off of this here. And then so again, I'm gonna try to cut the small bit off the larger bit. So it's measuring at 5 1/2. So if I bring it to 4 3/4, that'll give me 3/4 of an inch. Then I need them to be 4 inches long. So I cut it at 8 and then 4. The last thing that I need are mats for these pieces that are 1 inch by 2 3/4. So I need them to be 1 1/4 by 3. So I'm thinking, okay, well, are any of these about 3 inches to start with? Because then I could save myself or like be more efficient with my cardstock. Noticing, not quite, but this is 3 1/2. So that might not be bad. And now I have a 3 inch and I can cut the 1 1/4 off of it, see how many I can get. So this is measuring close to 5 1/4 inches, but not quite. And I don't want to have one that's too small. So I'm going to cut a tiny bit off. That does mean that it's probably just going to be garbage, but I want my mats to look really nice. So I'm willing to sacrifice that small bit of garbage for it. Okay, so I'm just measuring 1 1/4 inches from my last one, and in fact, it does make what I need perfectly, so that that tiny bit of trash is even more worth it to me. We have those mats. Okay, and then we can start putting all of our patterned paper on top of our mats. So I did mention I had a few scraps where they're like pretty similar in size. I will often glue together and put that underneath other parts of, like if I make a colored image or something, a focal point image, I will use that to pop them up instead, but I like to have a little bit of dimension, so I like to glue a few of them together. Sometimes it's nice to even glue like 3 pieces for a little bit thicker. It depends on like how thick in general you like your foam tape, but it's a good use of those really tiny cardstock scraps that you won't know what else to do with. Not that there's nothing you could do with stripes, but it's the fast way to use it for me, so I like to do that. Let's take a look at how I finished up these cards. So I know that the measurements take a long time, and then a lot of my other card making, especially today, was kind of basic, so I'm just gonna walk you through it. I wanted to die cut banners for my sentiments, so I just die cut them out of the back of a large piece of the mat that I put behind this large patterned paper piece so that I wouldn't have to use extra cardstock, and I knew it would match perfectly. So then I'll place all of that, and I lined it up according to the sketch. I have no specific measurements for like how far from the bottom to put the focal point part or anything like that. I kind of just, each time, what looks good. And then after I put the sweet greetings is from Lawn Fawn's Henry Build a Sentiment Fall. I did pick up, I think it's fall and winter of these recently, just because I liked that it gave me a variety of sentiments without having to buy a bunch of stamp sets. So sometimes I'll be looking for something a little bit more punny, but also these include autumn sentiments, Halloween sentiments, Thanksgiving sentiments, all together. And so I think there's also a couple basics like a thank you and thanks so much. But as someone who likes punny sentiments, this was a good fit for me. I just decided to do sweet greetings because I originally was just planning to use the candy corn and make it like Halloween-like, but not like super, super Halloween, just in case. I don't know, I thought that maybe make it a little bit easier to like distribute for charities, because I donate a lot of my cards, and I don't know. Then I put the ghosts on, and I don't know, because now some organizations don't like ghosts, which is just occurring to me now. Anyway, you got to check the guidelines, because some organizations like to keep it a little bit more cutesy and a little less spooky. So maybe I'll switch out. I haven't glued down all of my ghosts yet, but they are super cute. And this is the Lawn Fawn Simply Celebrate Fall stamp set. And as you can see, the ghosts are kind of like in little pairs, and the candy corn and the apples are kind of similar like that. And so that's why I didn't actually buy the coordinating die set, because it cuts them all out as one row. And I thought I would probably not want to use it that way all of the time. And so I'd be fussy cutting it enough that I would just fussy cut it whenever I wanted to use the stamp set. So I did fussy cut them, and then I like to, when I do fussy cutting, which is just to like cut around the black edge of the marker, run a marker that has like a brush tip, so like a fine, or so like comes to kind of a point with a little bit of flexibility. I like to run that along the edges. I tend to have the color facing forward and run it along from like basically the back, where my marker's like facing the back, because I find if I slip up, like I did here, it tends to draw a line on the back and not on my coloring, so I haven't ruined my coloring. Okay, so then once I have those all, and I have them fussy cut out, and my Copic coloring, I did Copic color these super, super basic, especially because I was fussy cutting. I didn't even have to get in the lines. I just chose 2 colors of orange, 2 colors of yellow. I used C00 to color in the white. I do think it's a little, especially with the candy corns and some coloring the rest of it, not to leave it stark white, so just to add just a little bit of color with a C or like a light gray marker. And so I'm thinking maybe I will balance some of the cards with 2 candy corns. These guys, the ghosts are already glued down, but just to make them a little bit easier to donate, maybe I'll balance them that way. I was afraid that the candy corns wouldn't really stand out, but again, if that makes it a little bit of a better fit for where I want to donate them, then I'll go ahead with that. I do think the little candy corn with the bite out of it's pretty cute, but I want to use it in a way that you can see the bite mark on them, and I will have enough to place, so each set, like each time you stamp the candy corn, it makes 4 of them, and so since I did it twice, I would have enough to put the candy corn on all of the cards. So remember that you can download template number 1, 2, and 3 for 8.5 by 11 cards. If you're really liking them, you can get the additional 7 in the Etsy pack. And if you found this video helpful, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with a share to your crafty community. Subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for product links. See you in the next video.